Welcome to Back Pain Movement. I'm your host, Simon Schmidt. My guest today is Michael Eisner, a 37 years young Canadian living in Toronto. You are an actor, a graduate of Studio 58 Action Conservatory, and a graduate of Canadian Film Centre Action Conservatory. You are the founder and host of the podcast Ankylosing Spondylitis Natural Health. Most of your guests have an AS diagnosis and are telling their very personal story. You want to help all those people who are still suffering from this illness in a sustainable way. With 18, you yourself were diagnosed with AS. For 10 years now, you are committed to a healthy lifestyle, determined to get out of pain naturally. Now you feel better than ever, you're pretty much out of pain, and you are in the best health of your life. So Michael, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much, Simon. It is a real pleasure to be here with you.
Great, it's a pleasure to me. I know from you really like the mountains. So I'm wondering, Switzerland is having a lot of mountains. What do you think about Switzerland? Do you have an image about it?
Yeah, okay. I do have an image of Switzerland. I actually dated a woman who was from Switzerland. She was Swiss. And when I started dating her, I noticed that she would comb her carpet, the tassels on the end of the carpet, so they were perfectly straight when she was cleaning the house. So, I mean, maybe she was a little OCD, but it might be also like some part of the organization and attention to detail that Swiss folks have. I don't know if that's true or not, but it always left an impression on me. She was very clean. I do have a great image of like lots of mountains and beautiful, lots of trails. So I'd love to go there and experience the Alps there for sure.
Great. And where did you meet her? But not in Switzerland?
No, it was in Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada, in the prairies.
Ah, okay.
I lived there, yeah.
Okay, great. Interesting story. Yeah, so as you know, my podcast is all about back pain. So you yourself have your own story. I'm just wondering, when you hear the word back pain, what pops into your mind?
It's an annoyance, something that a lot of people experience. I think it's something that a lot of people complain about, but a lot of folks disregard. Like there's very little empathy for back pain, because I think a lot of people are like, just get over it, work out, and even in the past, I've caught myself thinking, oh, well, it can't be that bad, like when you hear about other people's back pain. Though it seems like a very common thing for people to have, I think it affects a lot of folks.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I see it absolutely the same way. Also, when I have talked to experts, they're saying like, oh, there are a huge amount of people out there having back pain. So, it's a big issue. Totally agree with you on that.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, and I mean, you can also know that it can be extremely debilitating, and I've seen that too. So, in those cases, of course, there's a lot of empathy and sympathy for those folks. But yeah, it can be from chronic to at times and at other times, and then it can really affect people's lives or just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so a broad range of different sorts of back pain. Yeah, absolutely. Like you cannot put it all together, and you just have to look at all of the symptoms like individually. Yeah, absolutely. So with your diagnosis, I'm wondering, could you probably, of course, I had looked it up, but probably for my listeners, can you explain a little bit what this illness is exactly?
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, no one knows really what it is. Nobody knows really what causes it. There's no scientific evidence that says exactly what it is. There's a lot of theories. One major theory is that it's bacteria in the gut lining, and through something called leaky gut syndrome, the bacteria leaks through the intestinal lining, and then the bacteria goes into the bloodstream, and the body interprets that as a foreign threat, and so it attacks it, and inflammation happens in the spine or wherever it is. But typically, what it is, how they diagnose it, is that everyone with AS has a specific gene called HLA-B27, and basically their symptoms, along with that gene being found, determine if they have it. So usually there's sacroiliac joint pain that feels like it's in the hip. There's pain in the spine, and stiffness can also occur in the chest. Eye can form into colitis or even Crohn's. And also people get it in their knees, their heels, elbows, neck. It can really affect a huge array of the body. But eventually, the long-term projection of the disease is that the spine fuses, the sacroiliac joint fuses, and the person is pushed forward into an arch, and they end up looking down, and they have a bit of a hunchback, and they can't move anymore. And so that's a very extremely painful process and can take the whole life. Typically it affects white males, but it can also affect obviously Asian, African American, but typically it's Northern European sort of. It affects everyone, and it can affect women, but typically more men, and it's about 1 in 10,000 people that are affected.
Yeah, I can say like it's a crazy illness. So yeah, it sounds to me it's weird.
And I forgot to say it's considered an autoimmune disease.
Oh, okay.
And it is weird. It is very weird. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like any autoimmune disease, I think, because it's like so. How could you imagine like your own corpse is attacking yourself? Like, yeah,
exactly.
It's like hitting yourself on the head. Yeah, you could say. Why would you do that?
Exactly. Why would you do that? Why would the body do that?
So you told me like in the last year you had like a really steep learning curve. Mm-hmm. How did it come that it took so long for you to find this way?
Right. I was looking for a long time. For about the last 10 years, I was looking for natural solutions because I'd decided not to take medication anymore. So I've had it for 26 years. So 10 years ago, I said no more medication. And in the last year, the big steep change has been, I always suspected it had something to do with the way I was thinking and the emotional identification I had with my emotions, I guess. But I didn't quite understand it. I saw patterns, like when I was upset or angry, it seemed to affect my body, and that made sense, right? Stress affects the body. I knew that, but I found a group online called the Ankylosing Spondylitis Victors, and there was Ralph Ruiz and this guy Sky Denton and Peter Winslow. And I started reading online about them, and they all had healed from this specific condition naturally. And so I was blown away. I'd met very few people who even had the condition, and then to find people online, 3, that were claiming they were healed from this, and they did it themselves naturally. And I mean, of course, I was skeptical at first, but I read through their material, and it sounded so authentic and it rung true with me immediately. And I guess I just knew. I was like, that's exactly what I suspected was going on with me, but these guys train specifically how to get out of it or how to heal. And it was an emotional, mental, more of a mental, spiritual, emotional thing than anything else.
Okay, interesting. And have you ever been in contact with them, or have you just read their stuff?
Right. I was in contact. I contacted Ralph Ruiz, had a long conversation with him, and he said to read a book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, and he said check in with me in a couple months after that. And so we had this great conversation, and basically told me, Michael, you got nothing to worry about. You're fine. You got to learn to love your condition and appreciate it for what it has to teach you, and not to love it like love the pain or anything, but to just accept it with open arms. And this was a new concept for me. It really opened up my mind, and it felt good. It felt liberating. So just that little tinge. And the other thing he said, Michael, you don't need anything except the air that you're breathing. In life, like really, you don't need anything. Of course, food and shelter, that's great. But I was always looking outside for a cure, for something that was going to make me better. And basically that's what he meant by you only need the air that you breathe. And that's really the practice, is being present and in the moment and being grateful for everything you have. And that's really the most beautiful teaching about it. And so I read that book, A New Earth, and then I got in touch with this guy, Peter Winslow, who also healed himself 26 years ago, about 25 years ago. He's been out of pain, and he healed himself all on his own. And so I had to get in touch with this guy. I figured, if he's been free of this pain for 25 years, then, this guy's the real deal. So I coached with him. He was my coach, I guess, my AS health coach for about a year. And within 2 months, I felt extremely better. And so I just kept on seeing him. And it was over online. He lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. I live in Toronto. But anyway, yeah, it was an amazing journey, and I'd say I'm still on it, of course. And I feel so much better. Thank you.
Great. I'm so happy for you to hear that. And now, are you still having like a special routine or exercises? Could be mentally or physically that you still have to do. I
wouldn't say that
to keep you out of pain.
I have to do anything. However, there's definitely a practice I have. I learned how to do TM a long time ago, but just at the beginning of this year, after meeting Peter, I began doing it really regularly, 2 days a week. 2 times a day. So I do it first thing in the morning, and then in the evening, I meditate for 20 minutes. So that allows me to, I guess, step away from the thought emotional pattern, and to meditate and get some relief, I guess. All the great benefits of meditation. So I do that. I started lifting weights. I'm a yoga teacher. I've been doing yoga for 13 years, and Peter immediately said, you got to stop doing yoga. And I was like, are you kidding me? I got to stop doing yoga? I thought he was crazy. I'm like, yoga is the cure for arthritis. I thought it was the end-all, be-all. However, it's not. There's more to it. He said, you got to get strong, Michael, because I was about 30 pounds underweight when I met him. I weighed 108 pounds. Now I weigh 137, almost 140 pounds. So he said, you got to get strong. You got to gain that muscle. You got to get some weight on you. He said, you still got about 10 good years of muscle gain. Me being about 37. So he's like, so you got to hit the gym and lift those weights. So I lift weights. I lifted weights solid for about a year, and now I'm getting back into the movement stuff. So today I did capoeira, I did handstands in the park, I did a little jog, big stretch, and then I went to the gym and I did deadlifts and squats. So I feel like I'm more free with what I do now, and I think that's a big key. But at the beginning, having that structure and regiment of really stressing the muscles, and I think I had to learn again that I'm fine and that I'm okay. Because to me, I thought, no, lifting weights was going to be extremely painful. And maybe it was some days, but I was fine, and I got over it, and I'm a lot stronger now because of it. Yeah. And I eat whatever I want. That's the other thing. That's another practice. I was obsessed with diet for 10 years. I was scared
Great.
of what I was eating all the time. I was scared of what was out there. I was like, what's in that? Is there gluten in that? Is there beef? Is there beef juice in there? I can't eat that. I was always afraid of everything. So he was like, Michael, you can eat whatever you want. And I was like, even cheese? Yes, you can eat cheese. And I was like, are you kidding? And eggs? Because I thought eggs would always, I thought eggs was arthritis. For me, I was like, eggs equals arthritis. So now I eat 4, sometimes 5 eggs first thing in the morning. Like I have huge plates of scrambled eggs with vegetables and oatmeal. And I just had a sandwich, a roast beef sandwich with bread with real gluten and wheat. And I'm fine. The arthritis is not affecting me. So, I mean, I have a lot of respect because there's a huge community of people out there that control their arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis through diet. They don't eat starch. They're on a ketose kind of diet. I respect that. I encourage anyone, if that's the journey they want to go on. I did it for years. It kind of worked for me. However, now that I've trained with this guy, Peter, now that I've changed my life, it's science, okay? I'm fine. I eat whatever I want, and I'm fine. So it had more to do with the mental, emotional, and the idea that I was sick. I always thought I was sick, but I'm not. I'm okay.
Yeah, I can see it. You are okay. More than that. Great. Um, so could you maybe tell us a little bit about how about your darkest moments with this illness? How did it feel, and how did you push through it?
Okay, right. Um, I think it came to me. I started using drugs and alcohol when I was 14. So I used a lot. Had a lot of parties. I stopped when I was 28. I just had enough. And as soon as I stopped, I think my body went into a bit of a shock. And of course, I had arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis when I was 11 on. So when I was 28, I stopped drinking and doing drugs, and I think my body went into shock. So I started feeling arthritis everywhere in my body, everywhere. My eye, my chest, all down my spine, my hip, and I started taking really strong anti-inflammatories, NSAIDs, something called Arthritech. And it was fine for about 6 months, but then it started rotting or started causing ulcers. And I started bleeding, and I lost a tremendous amount of weight, and I couldn't digest any food. And the doctors were just saying, "Oh, you're not eating enough food," or, they didn't know it was the pills, and neither did I. I didn't understand what was going on. So I was taking the pills. It was giving me ulcers, and all the arthritis came back everywhere. So the drugs weren't working, and the arthritis was worse than it ever was in my life. I was completely out of control. I had no way of controlling it, not physical exercise, drugs, nothing. And so, it got so bad at times where, I'd wake up and I couldn't move at all in bed because the pain was so sharp. And then when I did, the pain was so intense, I blacked out. I passed out, and then when I woke up, it was still there, and I had to get some anti-inflammatories, and you have to take it with food. So I had to crawl on the ground, and I had to go to the bathroom. I had to crawl on the ground. Took about a half an hour to get to the bathroom. Or I couldn't even go to the bathroom. I had to go to the kitchen and grab a pot and pee in the pot because I couldn't sit on the toilet. I couldn't physically put myself on the toilet. So I always felt like if I was ever in immediate danger, like someone was threatening my life, I couldn't get away because of the pain kind of thing. So I always had a very dark and gloom vision of where I would end up at the end of my life, not able to take care of myself. So, and it was a myth, you know. So I guess that was probably the darkest point, you know, where I just felt I was depressed, extreme anxiety, I was paranoid, and I didn't really know what to do. So, but somehow I believed in natural healing, so I found a naturopath, and over about 2 or 3 years, using his guidance of taking a bunch of supplements, acupuncture, all natural remedies, yoga, everything he could think of. It kind of got me to the point where I was okay again. Not perfect, but okay. I could function, I could work again, all that. So yeah, that was the beginning of my healing journey. You know, like I guess the darkest point, it really woke me up. And it said I have two choices. The rheumatologist told me I could take something called biologics, which control your immune system. And they're very expensive, about $1,500 an injection. And you got to do it once a week. So something like that. Yeah, it's extremely expensive. I didn't have health insurance. So I just said, and it controls your immune system. So if you get an infection, you're unable to fight it off. So I was like, that's not for me. So I just believed there was another way, and I found it.
Thank you. That's hard stuff you're telling here. Yeah, I haven't thought that that's so hard disease, and that the pain could be that severe. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people I talk to, it's extremely painful. There's this one guy who's working with my coach Peter right now, and he's in a wheelchair. He's on all kinds of drugs, and he can't walk, and he's in pain all the time. So it affects people in different ways. Some people really harshly, and some people are fine. I have a friend of a friend. My friend's brother. He has the AS diagnosis, and he's fine. Oh, so I think it has something to do with how you, as I learned, something to do with your emotional, spiritual quality and what you're going through, because it affects people different ways.
Yeah, that's interesting in the way that, yeah, it's like the same illness, but we are all individuals, so we can hit you totally differently.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I want to talk about now about your podcast. So I'm really interested how you got into all this podcasting. I have met you in the Broadcast Yourself course, and tell us more about it.
Okay. Well, after I got better, and through talking to my coach, I guess the next step for me was, how can I give back? And he talked, what about interviewing people? You could talk to other people who have this condition. I was like, yeah, that'd be great. I could learn from them. So when the course came up, London Reel's Broadcast Yourself course, I saw it, and I'd been following Brian for a long time, and I thought, well, it's a little bit of money, but it's exactly what I'm looking for. And I believe that, when you ask questions, options come up. And so I was like, let's do it. Let's take this course. And now I've met so many people in the Ankylosing Spondylitis community, all people who all have the same kind of interests as me. So I'm right in my pocket. I'm right there, and meeting such tremendous people, and I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful for it. I'm so happy I chose to do it. I now have 5 episodes and 4 episodes in the can. So they just have to be, and one of them is yourself. So I look forward to publishing them. Should be up pretty soon.
Great. I'm also looking forward to it. So how do you feel after you had an interview? How does it make you feel?
Right. It's funny. It's leading up to it. There's so much anticipation, or research that we do, and then once it's done, it feels good, and it feels right. And I think that even if some people are listening in, and it encourages someone who's in a really dark spot, or someone who's lost, and are looking for just I don't want to say hope, but for alternatives, for something else, And so even if it can provide that, then, I think I've succeeded. I think a resource like this for me would have been tremendous if I had found it 10 years ago. So it's a great feeling every time I finish an episode.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I can totally feel it, because I feel the same way after an interview. Exactly. But you are also an actor. So
Yes.
I think I haven't never talked to an actor before, so it's kind of my first time. So I'm interested in asking some question about this. You told me that acting influenced you. You had like a mentor, and had a great influence on you. Can you tell us more about this?
Absolutely, yeah. Amazing woman. Her name's Michelle Lonsdale Smith, and she trains in Los Angeles, and Toronto, and Vancouver. I was in Vancouver training with her, and she has this exercise called relaxation, which is very common in the actor's studio. It comes from the actor's studio, where you sit in a chair, you isolate one part of your body, and you begin moving it around, relaxing everything else. So you focus on that one part of your body, relaxing it, moving it as far as you can, and then moving on to the next part of your body. So you isolate each joint, move it, and the theory is that in our muscles, emotion is stored, old memories, and when you release it and are aware of it through the relaxation, you become aware of your emotion, and you become aware that when you move your body, it releases it. And so the task is to not make a story or to comment mentally on the emotion, because it's very tempting. Oh, I'm sad. It's because, when I was younger, this happened, or my girlfriend just broke up with you, and she was always like, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. So you're sad. You feel sadness. That's it. You're aware of sadness. We all are. You know what I mean? It will change. She just kept saying that. It's going to change. In 2 minutes, you're going to be happy. So you just keep on moving through it, rolling your neck, isolating those parts, and then you're happy, and then you're laughing. And so the exercise, we did it for, about half hour, 45 minutes at the beginning of each class. And so that woke me up. Like, I always knew what sadness was. You know what I mean? Of course, sadness, anger, happiness. But I didn't really know what it was, because I was always attached to it as an idea. Sadness, I always thought, oh, it's because of this. I'm sad because of this. And it became a story. But when I detached from that for the first time in my life and just felt raw emotion, just, okay, it's sadness. That's all that is. It was beautiful, because for the first time I disidentified with emotion, and at the same time I was able to identify it. So it was a tremendous sense of freedom, and it really helped me in healing later on, because what I discovered with Peter, and what he helped me to realize, was that a lot of the condition, a lot of the pain I was experiencing was because of anger. And and believing that there was a reason for my anger. And so if I was in a situation where something bothered me, I would feel it in my body, and then I'd tell this story to myself about why I was angry. And so he said, what if you just felt it? Something happens, don't take it personally. It's nothing to do with you. And just feel it. Feel that anger in your body and separate from the story. So, for a while, I was in my bedroom for hours, sitting on the floor, meditating, and just feeling that anger. So say the day before, someone pissed me off. You know what I mean? The story would happen, and I'd just feel it. So that was the beginning of really the healing. So Michelle helped with that. The acting helped with that, because that was the beginning of it, knowing that I could just sit there and feel it, and it wasn't me. It was just the body doing what it does, and I reacted to it. And so the pain is dissipated because of that awareness. And pain is the same thing. It's a sensation. And so he taught me, just feel it. Don't make a story of it. It will move and it will change, just like emotion. It's going to change. Everything's temporary. Nothing is permanent. Well, there's a couple things he said was permanent. And that was now. That's always permanent.
Wow. Wonderful. Yeah, that's a wonderful story. Now I'm getting also a little bit emotional. So, what has it to do with acting? So I do not see that link so far.
Right, the correlation. Okay, so you do the relaxation. That puts you in your body. So you're in your body now. Your body's alive, and you've created that connection. You're out of your mind and in your body. And that is the key to acting. You're in your body, and the words will just be there. Okay, so the next exercise is something called private moments or sensory. So you start with a glass, a cup of coffee, imaginary. So you're in your body and you imagine you're holding a cup of coffee. It's hot. You can smell it, drink it, taste it, and you spend a long time doing that. And eventually, as you get better, you start imagining whole landscapes, or your bedroom, or say hot shower, cold shower. But the thing is, you're in the shower, you visualize it. So you remember you're in an acting studio, and you remember start with the floor. So you just look down at the imaginary floor and you remember what your floor looks like. And like say in the bathroom, it's a tile. What does it feel like? You feel the grains beneath the tiles. You feel the smoothness, the texture, it's cold. And then you move to the walls. And then you do the whole thing where you take off your clothes, grab a towel, the whole procedure of a shower. So you're recreating it. And you ask, what does this have to do with acting? So you create a private moment. So there's people watching you. And it's the focus and it's the concentration of remembering you're in a shower and you're taking it and feeling it. And then perhaps you sing your favorite song that you love singing in the shower. And so it's a really beautiful exercise because you remember who you are and you're out of your head, and it's all through your imagination. And through that, like the childlike, wonder comes out in you. And that's play, right? You're imagining again. That's what we did when we were kids. And that's what acting is. It's playing, but scientifically, right? So there's a method. There's a method to it. You sit down, you relax, become aware of your body, your emotions, you separate from it. Then you start using your imagination. And then you're ready to act. And then we do a scene, right? So then sometimes she'd be like, what scene you working on, Michael? I'd tell her. And she'd be like, what monologue are you working on? So I'd know it. She'd be like, okay, you're in the shower. It's hot. Now do your monologue. But you're not doing the monologue like you're thinking about it. You do it as if you're feeling the heat and you're speaking those words. So you're still in your body and you're just saying the words, and it doesn't have to make sense. Life doesn't make sense. And that's the thing. Most people, when they're angry or they're passionate, it just comes out, right? You're in a scene. It's all subtext. What we talk, is like, it's the tip of the iceberg. Everything is underneath. So the words, they don't really matter. And that's, I guess that's the exercise. It honestly, being in her class, it was probably, I mean, some of the most beautiful experiences in my life, for sure. It was amazing. It was really, it was unique, and it doesn't matter that I guess no one really saw, because I felt, I experienced it. So it's a real experience, and it really grew my love for the art of acting. I could understand how it was an art.
Wonderful, fantastic. As you know, I'm not an actor. I haven't never been to an acting class, so I couldn't imagine what actors, are, how they are trained. Exactly. So wonderful. It sounds to me like a really good training for everybody. It's like,
I think so too. It's a great training, I think, for everyone. I think anyone could benefit from it. Now, of course, that's just one school of acting training. There's many other ways, but that's just one way.
and are you still acting?
Yeah, I am. I did a lot of plays in the last 3 years, and I'm working on a monologue. I'm going to do a play in November. Yeah, just keeping my toe in it. I still do workshops. I go out for auditions. I have an agent and go out for auditions. I've been doing it for 15 years, so I mean, I love it tremendously. And I think one thing about being an actor, and most actors will tell you, is that it's okay and it's good to have other passions and to explore them. And it's all going to feed your acting and will make you a happier person. If you're just waiting around for a job, it's a really tough way to go. So this podcast and this has been a tremendous addition to my life, for sure.
Great. Great story. Now, normally I ask my guests a so-called museum question. I tell you how it is. It's just like you have to imagine you would die, and mankind would build a museum in honor of your life.
Oh.
It's your legacy.
Right.
So how would your museum look like?
I think it'd be something like a big gathering of people, where I'd be like, everybody has to climb a mountain together. Everyone has to climb this mountain and be in nature, and everybody has to sing and dance and roll in the mud and the dirt, and and then at the end of that, then everyone gets together and there's incredibly beautiful music that everyone dances to, and eating food and telling funny stories, and maybe some karaoke. I love karaoke, so maybe some karaoke. Just a big celebration, not taking anything too seriously, just having a lot of fun.
Sounds great to me. Fantastic. Do you have, if you could give one hint or one advice to your younger self when you have been, or when you discovered your illness, what would it be?
I'd say this illness is a gift. It's the greatest gift you may ever receive in your life. It's a message to wake up and to appreciate every day. And that you may have even chosen to have it. To remind yourself that you can't sit back on life, that that life is about engaging and taking risks and moving forward even though you're scared. And that even if that failing forward is the way to go, that you have to put, I'd say, Michael, you got to put your heart out there and you got to do your best. And if you fail, that's fine. But not doing anything and not trying and being aloof, that's your illness. So I'd say something like that. And it's to myself, so I can say that. It's a bit strong, but I'm only speaking to myself, so it's okay. I may not talk to someone else like that.
Wow, now it's great words.
Yeah.
Sounds just like to me like a mantra.
I think
you
so
could
too.
repeat.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Thanks, man. Great questions. Really great questions.
Yeah, thank you.
You're a good interviewer. You're really good.
Yes, so it was, wow, it's amazing talking to you, Michael, really. It was tremendous amount of things I've never heard before. Yeah, I can so much learn from you, I think. And I think a lot of people out there can learn from you too. So I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of good times with your podcast, and you're gonna help a lot of people.
Thanks,
I'm
Simon.
totally convinced
Appreciate
about that fact.
I feel the same way about you, man. When I heard when I was listening to your podcast, I was really, really impressed, and I definitely am inspired by you for sure.
Thank you. So great ending, I'd say. So yeah, just to my listeners, hope you enjoyed. Yeah, as always, give me feedback if you wish to. Open to any kind of feedback. So I'm gonna see you on the next show or hear you. And that was it for now. See you soon. Bye, Michael. Bye, everyone.